Welcome to the NJIT website and math podcast. My name is Vanessa. Today I will be covering properties of opposites. Now when you think of opposites in the real world, you think of black and white, cats and dogs, things like that. Well, there's different ways of expressing that also in algebra, depending on what you're dealing with, whether you're dealing with addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and I'm going to go over some of those properties here using letters instead of numbers. Now when you're dealing with a single variable such as a, and you want to express also its opposite, you can simply do that by putting a negative sign in the front like this. Now another way of also expressing that is by separating the negative from the variable, by attaching the negative to a -1, then multiplying it times the variable, just like this. Now if you also want to do the opposite of that, like say you have a positive a, you can also express that by doing what's called a double negative. If you do negative of a negative, two negatives make a positive, so a negative a also means a positive a. Now, let's say you're multiplying a positive and a negative number, say like a and b, and a in this case would be the negative number. You can simply write negative a times b. Now a negative, because you're multiplying it, can be switched between the variables, so this is also the same as saying a positive a times a negative b. And this is only because you're multiplying it that the negative is interchangeable between the two variables. Or you can take out the negative completely to the outside and make both variables positive, simply by saying negative a times b. Again, this is only because this is multiplication. Can you move the negative around between variables or take it outside completely and put parentheses in? Now if you want to work with just positive variables, again you could take the negative out completely and do a double negative. So say if you had two negative variables, a negative a times a negative b. Again, double negative, two negatives make a positive, so this is also the same as saying positive a times a positive b. Now when you're multiplying, you notice that I'm not putting a dot or an x in between the a and the b, because when you're multiplying, it's assumed, so you can just write the two variables next to each other and that just simply means multiplication. Alright, so now let's move on to addition and subtraction. If you have two variables a and a b, you can take out a negative and put it into parentheses. That negative, you can also pretend it's a -1 on the outside. You can actually take that negative and multiply it into the parentheses and you'll get the same thing. So this just simply means a negative a minus b. And all I did was take a -1. First I multiplied it times the a, so I got negative a, and then I multiplied it times the b and got negative b. So that's how I get negative a minus b. And now you can do the same exact thing if you had a -1 on the outside times a minus b. You could simply take the -1, multiply it times the a, and you get minus a. Take the -1, multiply it times a minus b. Minus times a minus is a positive, and you get a positive b. So you get negative a plus b. Now you can also, if you'd like to make the first term positive, which some people like to do, this is reversible because it's addition. So you can just simply write b minus a. So all of these are equal. Alright, now let's move on to some division. Alright, if we had two letters, A over B, because it's division, you can make either of them negative, and the whole quotient is would also be negative. So you can have negative A over B is also the same as A over negative B, or you can just remove the negative completely and just put it in the center. So it's minus A over B. Here you're not specifying which variable is negative, but again, if one variable is negative, it makes the whole thing negative, so it really doesn't matter. So either way you can write it. And if you have both negative, same rule applies. Double negative makes a positive, so this is the same thing as saying positive A over positive B. Alright, and finally, I'm going to move on to something more complete. So now let's introduce a third variable, C. Say if we have some letter A times, in parentheses, B minus C. This is the distributive rule, as you may have heard. Now just like we did with the negative 1, as we multiply it in, you can do the same thing with variables. So I'm going to take the A, multiply it times the B, you get the A times B. Now I do the same thing here, take the A, multiply it in. Now be sure to include the negative sign. So it's A times a negative C, simply gives you minus AC. So just keep in mind that when you're doing a distributive property, you always include the negative or the positive sign when multiplying. Thank you for visiting the NJIT website. If you need further assistance, please contact the Center for Academic and Professional Enrichment, Kupfrian Hall, room 200. Thank you and good luck with your studies.